Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. Joyce, it's time for another edition of Oscars Playback, the 80th annual Oscars, or as Jon Stewart said, does this town need a hug?
Yeah, and also one that happened right after a writer's strike ended.
Very appropriate. We're recording this on July. Magic of banking things. We're recording this on July 17th. It's going to go up in August.
We're in the middle of a double strike. Well, I feel pretty confident saying the double strike will still be happening.
Oh yeah, it's not going to end. But we don't know anything that happened in the last 4 weeks. We have no idea what is. When you're watching this, 4 weeks have passed since we recorded this. Who knows what kind of magical things could have happened in the next 4 weeks? But this is right.
It's just gonna spit some more fire quotes. That's all.
But yeah, no, this is the 80th annual Oscars, the 2008 Oscars, celebrating 2007 in film, Joyce. It happened right after the writer's strike, and as a reward for ending the strike, basically, that is what people in the history remembers, or as history was written. This Oscar ceremony helped end the strike that was happening with the writers, and as a reward, it was the lowest rated Oscars of all time.
I wouldn't say it helped end it. It was more that it lucked out that the strike ended 2 weeks before, basically, and they had 2 weeks to write material. They were planning 2 different shows.
Yes, a lot of montages, I feel like.
I have a lot of articles here about the double shows that they were planning.
And as I said, we're recording this on the 17th of July. I was reading something today that suggested, because again, it's maybe print the legend, but it is the legend that this was like how one of the things that got everybody back on the same page. Can't cancel the Oscars. But then I saw something about somebody suggesting that this will be how this current double strike ends, which means we could be looking at a March, extending into March. And I also was like, I don't think anybody cares about this ceremony as much as maybe they did in 2008. So I actually have a hard time.
I don't even think they cared about the ceremony back in 2008. Like the Globes were canceled.
Yeah, but the Globes aren't. I think there is like a respect thing about the Oscars, but I don't think it exists anymore. So if you're banking on the upcoming 2024 Oscars to end a double strike, don't bet on it. I would that would be my guess. I wouldn't want to bet on that as ending the strike.
No, but also like back then, that strike, it was only 100 days. Only 100 days. We're on what days, like 78 or something of the writer's strike.
I think so, yeah.
And but they had like already gone back to the table, like I think after noms in January.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had said like they were not going to picket the Grammys, which were before the Oscars. So that was like a good sign for, a deal happening. And then the deal did finally happen on February 12th.
Yeah.
So they lucked out, but so then the strike gets blamed for the low ratings, which now of course we have the lowest ratings ever.
Yes. Also,
and then the other reason, or like the factor that people cite for the low ratings, is like no hits.
No hits, but I would say this is the best Oscars we've done, and this is the best year of movies.
It's one of the best lineups and one of the best winners ever, and one of the best ups ever.
Best winners, and frankly, 2007 literally I think it's on par with 1999, and like probably as good, maybe as good as any year of our life, at least my life. I just think this year these are like some of the greatest movies ever made, all in the same year. It's just an incredible lineup. So while I understand there weren't hits, it doesn't matter to me. This is great.
Now there are no hits either, so it's like,
yeah, now there are no hits. It's like, what's that? No jobs, no. I don't remember that stupid meme, but this is like no hits, no good movies, basically.
Yeah, but it's always like this when we, like the 90s ones we've looked at too. It's like in the moment, people are fretting about something, and then like this is going to be the norm going forward eventually.
We would only be so lucky to have this level of movie craft at the Oscars. I don't think we like. I can't even. It's so much better than anything we've had recently. So the show is 3 hours and 20 minutes, 30 minutes shorter than the previous year. A fantastically brisk show. Only 31 million people watched. 8.2 million only 8.2 million fewer than the prior year, and a record low. To see Jon Stewart host a second time, Joyce, I watched this whole ceremony.
The whole thing is online, except for some parts because of copyright.
And it is fantastic. I'd say this is my favorite one that we've watched. I love the show. I think Jon Stewart is on fire. He's so fun. He's like the perfect outsider. He having done it previously, once. He comes in feeling like the perfect outsider and definitely the least phony host. Like he understands a lot of it is bullshit and then just like is like not here for it, but like kind of like jokes about it, like with like a elbow into the ribs kind of thing. And the movies are great. It's like all these winners rule. So I was just like in heaven watching this.
He was I like both of his stints, like, but I thought like his first one was definitely more like anti-establishment because it was his first time and it was like the outsider coming in, and obviously this one is his second time. So I think he played a little bit more to the room.
Here, I wrote down some of his jokes, Joyce. They canceled the Vanity Fair Oscar party out of respect for the writers. You know how you could show respect for the writers? Invite them to the Vanity Fair Oscar party. Hilarious.
They still don't.
They still don't. A hilarious virtue signaled bullshit maneuver done by Vanity Fair in 2008. And,
yeah, a lot of parties canceled in the lead up before
so
the deal
was.
Like,
that cracks me up when people do that. I just think it's so phony. That's a great joke. He had another joke about
it's a lot of virtue signaling. So
a lot of it. He had a joke about Diablo Cody that I wrote down that I found incredibly funny that she laughed at. Diablo Cody used to be an exotic dancer, and now she's an Oscar-nominated screenwriter. I hope you're enjoying the pay cut. But bum.
I mean, like facts.
Still facts. And still true, probably.
Even more true now, because like she would get like 2% on anything she makes on streaming.
He had another one. I don't even remember.
2 cents.
I apologize for it because I just wrote, this is all I wrote down. We cannot let the audience win. I don't even remember what the punchline or the setup was for that joke, but it just made me laugh because it felt so true to now. Like, we cannot let the audience win. Don't let them win. That's it. Very funny. And then he got political, Joyce, because it was right before the 2008 Oscars. We have the 2008 a historic election. And it's Barack Obama at this point versus Hillary Clinton for the Democratic nomination. And he goes, normally when you see a black man or woman president, an asteroid is about to hit the Statue of Liberty.
I mean, facts.
Great. This is just, he was just spitting fire. I incredibly enjoyed this monologue. He's so good.
Yeah, it was. I remember watching it live. And then, because one of his early jokes was just about the Best Picture nominees and how dark they are. And then, like, he was like, thank God for teen pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Great. It was tonight we look beyond the dark days of the strike to focus on Happy Fair, this year's slate of Oscar-nominated psychopathic killer movies. And then he says the aforementioned, does this town need a hug? So we'll go into the Oscars. But first, as usual, we do the 2007 in film, our favorite Wikipedia page, TK in film. And like I said, this year fucking rules. I was just way in. You wouldn't know that from the box office, where Spider-Man 3 is the top grossing movie. Not my fave.
Well, that's why we didn't get 4 and 5, and then they rebooted it with Andrew Garfield.
A good Spider-Man in a bad franchise.
It was just too much happening there. They had too many characters, too many villains. I felt bad for Topher Grace because he left That 70s Show, and then there was talk about a Venom spinoff, which obviously did not happen. So yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen in this one. But
next up was Shrek the Third. I'm a big Shrek fan, but not the third one. Can't say I even remember seeing it.
I don't think I saw it in the theater, but I've seen it once.
And then the number 3 movie at the box office is Transformers, which I absolutely love. The original Transformers rules. Michael Bay supremacy.
This is the only Transformers I've ever seen.
Fantastic. The ending, Optimus Prime voiceover smash cut with Linkin Park hitting the post on What I've Done. Truly one of the great moments in cinema. Martin Scorsese even would be like, yes, this is cinema.
Linkin Park, one of the most recent concerts I've been to, and recent, I mean 9 years ago.
Yes, because that's amazing. Where did you see them? I'm going to guess Jones Beach.
I saw it at Jones Beach.
Yes, there we go. That's a great place.
It was a tour with, Linkin Park is my friend's favorite band. So it was Linkin Park, 30 Seconds to Mars.
Sure.
And AFI. AFI was opening for both.
Oh, that's a great concert.
Tour with 30 Seconds to Mars. And
I love that. Jones Beach, a great venue to see like alternative bands. I haven't been there in a million years, but I remember seeing Red Hot Chili Peppers and Stone Temple Pilots.
Nice. I've seen Jewel there too.
Sure. Great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great time. So I wrote down about 1,000 movies here from 2007, most of which I saw in the theater and absolutely loved because even though I was a grown up, this is a year I decided, I think for myself, I was like, You know what I could do? Go to the movies by myself. Took me a long time to
Took
get
you
over
that long to realize I love going to movies by myself. I always go by myself.
I had not gone by myself for a long time, and then I was like, I was a grown up, and I was like, I have nothing to be embarrassed about. I'm just gonna go by myself. So I saw most of these
Are you
movies.
still scared of like eating in a restaurant by yourself?
No, I guess not. I mean, I haven't done it in a long. Well, I guess I've done that like if I've been on like a business trip or something. But like I have, I don't know. I nowadays I would just go to a movie by myself all the time. Like I don't give a shit. It's great. But
Yeah, sometimes I don't even ask people if they want to see something with me. I'm just like, I'm doing it on my own. I just go.
it's so much easier.
Yeah. It's a great date with yourself.
So I wrote down, here's some movies I wrote down. And like I said, a lot of them. Smoking Aces, Joe Carnahan joint.
Great Ben Affleck.
Just an iconic cast. Chris Pine, Ben Affleck, Piven, Bateman, I think is in it.
Yeah, Alicia Keys is in it.
Yes, Alicia Keys, just like all bangers. Ryan Reynolds, this was like, and Ray Liotta. It's a pretty wild, like, relic of like 90s post Pulp Fiction Tarantino bullshit, but it like really kind of works, and it has this Clint Mansell score that goes so hard, even though it doesn't need to. So I was always a fan of this one. I haven't seen it in probably 20 years.
I haven't seen it in a while, but I think it had to have been Smartlist when Ben Affleck was on Smartlist in April for air.
Sure.
Like they talked about it. He and Bateman talked about it.
I'm sure. Yeah. Next movie I wrote down, which I think we'll probably talk about a lot, at least I would mention as a missed opportunity from a fantastic Oscars, is the movie Zodiac.
Love Zodiac so much. I think like nowadays it probably would have gotten in somewhere, like at least one nomination somewhere. But you know me, I love a good journalism procedural. And I also love murder.
Is this David Fincher's best movie?
Yes.
I think it might be.
I think at this time it was a mistake to release it in March.
Absolutely. I do think it's his best movie. It is a great, like we said, we had, I think the previous, when we were doing this previously, we had Kiss Kiss Bang Bang as like the Robert Downey Jr. comeback movie.
And yeah, RDJ should have been nominated for this.
He is so great in this. I just randomly saw over the week, it's been, like I said, we're recording on July 17th. So Oppenheimer, when you're watching this, will already be out. But I saw people like, obviously there's already a great amount of enthusiasm for RDJ in Oppenheimer as a potential Oscar contender for this year too. And I saw people like sharing clips of him in Zodiac just over the weekend. And when he's like talking to Jake at the bar and he's got like the blue drink and Downey's just like, what is that? It's just like, he's so good and so quick. It's a great moment.
But he also said last week that Oppenheimer is the best film he's been in. And I was like, so I haven't seen it. I'm seeing it tomorrow.
Me too.
And I'm like, well, I'll reserve judgment until I see Oppenheimer, but right now Zodiac is the best film we've been in.
I would say either Zodiac or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang for me, or my two faves.
I prefer Zodiac to Kiss King Bang Bang. I mean, are you saying the movie itself or his performance in those movies?
I think the movie itself. I mean, I'm not saying, I think it's close. And I mean, like, I think Zodiac's amazing. I rewatched it, I guess, a couple of years ago before Mank, whatever year that was, 2020. So I've seen it within the last like 3 years. It's freaking amazing. He is great.
It's a great cast. It should have been nominated at SAG. It got blanked everywhere.
Basically. Yeah. Another movie I'm not a big fan of, but definitely has had its imprint on culture, the movie 300, which was a huge hit. Zack Snyder.
I've seen like half of that movie.
Not a fan, but I know for the Snyder Bros, it's a big deal.
Michael Fassbender. 2007 without mentioning 300.
Right.
So.
Other one I wrote down that I saw in the theater as it was meant to be seen, the movie Grindhouse. The Tarantino.
I did not see that in the theater.
Spent all 3 hours there. Loved it. A fantastic theatrical experience. And I have actually recently bought it on Blu-ray. Have not gone back to watch it again. But I have seen Death Proof about 50 times because I do think that it's like, Tarantino has always said like that's like his worst movie. I think that's like maybe true, but like his worst is better than like most directors. But I do think it's actually pretty good. I actually don't mind it. Planet Terror, I've never actually watched again. Someday I'll put on that Blu-ray and I'll say
I've seen them once.
Kurt Russell, great performance in Death Proof. We'll be mentioning it later when we're doing our nominees. Not that he would have got nominated. The movie Hot Fuzz, Joyce, were you a fan of the Edgar Wright? I
like The World's End.
Do you like this? You like World's End better than Hot Fuzz?
Yes.
I've only seen The World's End once, but I loved Hot Fuzz because I love Bad Boys 2, and it's like basically like Bad
Of
Boys.
course.
So, the movie Waitress, Adrienne Shelley.
I had to review that. Yeah, very sad. She died in November 2006.
Yes.
And that's kind of name. Yeah.
A movie that like another movie that has had like a massive cultural imprint though.
Well, yeah, because it's on Broadway.
Yes. And it's like a very popular musical. It's a great musical. I've seen it many
Yeah.
times myself. I love the music, Sarah Bareilles Ellis, and the movie's good too. The movie Once, which is a personal favorite, I've seen it about 1 million times. Another show that has lived
Great
on
film.
beyond this year
Mhm.
as a Broadway show. Knocked Up, Joyce. Saw that opening weekend.
That came out on my birthday. I saw it on
Yes.
my birthday.
June 1st.
So yes, I love sharing my birthday with films that I like. Sometimes it's films that I don't like. So you know, you take the good with that.
This is one you like.
I have Knocked Up. I have Moulin Rouge.
Yes. June 1st is a great day
yeah.
for movies.
It is. Yeah.
Love Knocked Up. Can't say I've seen it a lot in 1 million times in a long time. Not as much as another movie we'll mention here that came out in August that I love even more.
From the same people, basically.
But there is a great line that I think of all the time is when Katherine Heigl works for E, if I remember correctly. Yes. And she's sitting there with Seth Rogen and she says something like, I have to talk, I'm going to butcher the line, but in my head, it's like, she's like, I am talking to Matthew Fox. And he's like, Matthew Fox from Lost? You know what's great about him? Nothing. He sucks. And it's a great line. The funniest thing. I'm sure that's butchered like what it actually is, but the delivery is great. I
love the scene in the beginning when like he, you know, like the guys are just like at the bar and they're just standing over Munich.
Incredible.
And then like when Steven Spielberg cast Seth Rogen in The Fabelmans, I'm like, I hope they just talk about Munich.
This was a great time for the Apatow era because it was like there were the material was incredibly timely and not stale, and like they were doing things that I felt like people were talking about in real life.
Well, this was like definitely their high point.
Yes.
The film does make me sad because, you know, obviously it's been marred by the quote unquote feud between Catherine and Judd and Seth. And I think it's also, you know, an indictment of the times when she voiced some pretty valid criticisms. Like I have the same criticisms of the film and the portrayal of Allison too. Like it's not like something that makes me hate the film, but I'm just like, yeah, like that character is pretty underdeveloped and it's definitely from like a bro perspective. Yeah. And she, you know, she's always been very outspoken. This is also during the era when it was cool to hate Katherine Heigl. Yes. So then everyone just piled onto her, and including Judd and Seth as well.
Not great. Yeah, I agree with that. I always like Katherine Heigl. I actually think she's great in this too. Mm-hmm. Leslie Mann also great in this movie. And yeah, like this, we still see this now. I think in a different level, and maybe people are coming at it from a different perspective. But I think there's always we don't like this person at the time, and then anything they say, we're just going to shit all over and pile.
Yeah, because this is also like 2007 was her big year. She would win the Emmy in September for Grey's.
Yes.
And then the very following year, you know, she had 27 dresses in 2008, early 2008 in January. So that was out before this Oscars ceremony. And then in 2008, she withdrew her name from Emmy consideration because she was like, I don't think I had the material that would warrant an Emmy nomination. Everyone piled on her for that, for being ungrateful. And this is already on top of her comments about Knocked Up. So it was just cool to hate an outspoken woman.
Yes.
I mean, back then, especially, it's like people still do it to this day. But now I'm glad that she's kind of like people have a new appreciation for her and see that, you know, she got dipped over back then.
Yeah.
And
definitely
like she had like her Actors on Actors this year with Ellen Pompeo, which obviously I don't even watch Grey's Anatomy, but I was like, I need to watch this. And
we watched Grey's recently, the whole thing, and it's great. And she was great, and I love her in Knocked Up, and I think she's great in Knocked Up, and it's like a good performance. And like, yes, the character's underwritten, but she's definitely good, and I think her points were valid. And Seth and Judd, probably if they had to do it again, wouldn't do that, I would imagine, based on their
no. And it was just like they fought that feud in the press, and it wasn't like a lot of vicious back and forth. It was just like Judd being like, oh, I can't believe she hasn't apologized yet. It was like, she doesn't have anything to apologize for. Right. So
another one I wrote down, Ocean's 13, not as good as Ocean's 12, obviously a classic, and not as good as 11, but still solid. The Nose
I
Plays,
haven't seen that
Joyce.
in a while.
The Nose
The
Plays.
the only one I rewatch is 11. I don't rewatch the other two.
The Nose Plays. Big Adrian Brody jokes in this. Love it so much. It's a lot of fun. Like we mentioned, Ratatouille here. Never a big fan of this movie, but sure.
I love Ratatouille. I think it's one
Totally
of
fine.
Pixar's best.
I'm sure we'll talk about it here because it won a bunch. Transformers, like I mentioned, just iconic cinema. I wrote down the movie Superbad, which remains one of my favorite movies, and is so funny and just so perfect. And Michael Cera is so
Great
good.
film.
Christopher Platt, who I will mention later, as I think a legitimate should have been nominated for supporting actor. I think you can make the case. He's unbelievable. It's so good. I just think it's so good. Greg Mottola should have been much bigger as a director. He did the last Fletch movie last year, which I loved and actually was like completely botched in release. I don't even know if it got a release, basically barely a theatrical release and then up on like Showtime streaming, but it's really fun with John Hamm.
He did Adventureland.
Yes, that was like his follow-up to this, I think.
Yeah, he did because he was on Undeclared with Judd.
Yes.
So
I wrote down this one. I saw this in the theater, I think in Lincoln Square by myself. Paul Haggis's follow-up to Crash, In the Valley of Ella. Or Ella.
I did not see that in the theater, but Tommy Lee Jones surprise nominee.
So I have a theory we'll talk about later when we do this, but I think a lot of these nominations are like cumulative nominations.
They didn't want to nominate him for No Country for Old Men.
Well, I think he should have been nominated for No Country for Old Men, I would argue, but I think it's easier to nominate him here in this Best Actor category, and then like it's like similar to like Casey Affleck, who gets in for assassination of Jesse.
He should have gotten double nominations. Well, he was a fraud in supporting.
He was, and he could have gotten in for Gone Baby Gone. But I think for both those guys, it feels like you had a great year, and we're going to honor your cumulative work for the year. And it just so happens it's for this movie, but it might as well be for the other movie too. But anyway, In the Valley of Ella, how do you think you even say it? Ella, not movie I really have thought about since 2007, and not a good movie if I remember correctly at all. Charlize Theron's in it. I don't know. I'm just like, no.
I haven't seen that in like forever, probably since 2007. If that, I probably saw it in like 2008. I don't remember. I saw it before the Oscars. But I remember him being good in it. So
sure, I believe it. But
so Paul Haggis went away to write this during the Crash campaign because he was like, I need to take a break, get away from all this like FICing. So he went away and banged this out.
Good for him.
So
another movie I was very interested in, Into the Wild, because they had a Eddie Vedder soundtrack.
A lot of Eddie Vedder songs.
Based on a book that I had read, which is rare.
Wow. Was that the first book you ever read?
Yes.
Wow. Congratulations.
And Sean Penn and Emil Hirsch. And I remember it was like it felt like a big thing. And I remember being a little disappointed in it. And I've never actually seen it again. But I wonder if I watched it now, if I would think it's good or actually insufferable because of, I don't know, whatever. But I just was like.
That's kind of how I feel about Atonement, because it's better than the movie.
Yeah.
But I also haven't seen the movie in a really long time. I've seen like bits and parts of it, like when it's on TV, but never the full thing again. Right. I just felt like it was kind of hard to adapt, because I read the book before the movie. So I felt like it's kind of hard to adapt what some of the things the book does onto film. And sometimes you can, when you think like, oh, that book is unfilmable, but they actually do it. And I think the movie is solid, but I think the book is better. So
I think so. For Atonement, you mean? I think Into the Wild too, but for both of these. The movie The Kingdom.
The Kingdom, oh my god, Genji, Jamie.
Just absolutely fuck yeah. Jason Bateman is like the nerdy science, the nerdy tech guy or whatever, right? I mean, like.
So she was on Smart List too recently, and they talked about The Kingdom.
What did they say, Joyce?
That was where they met, basically. So they just talked about like when they met.
This is a great movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but this was like a really fun cable rewatchable around this era. I can't imagine.
I feel like they don't air this anywhere anymore.
I can't imagine the politics are. I'm going to guess the politics are probably a reason why, based on the era and the culture. But I would love to see it again, because it was another great Coach Taylor in this, Joyce. I believe Kyle Chandler as well.
Did you watch Hairspray?
No.
I saw that. I had a great time watching that. I saw that with my friend's family because I was visiting him on
Mm-hmm.
vacation, and then we all just went to see it. A lot of fun. It got a SAG Ensemble nomination, which I would say deserved.
And maybe what
Just
about
a great
Travolta getting
cast.
it? He got a Globe nomination, I believe.
Yeah, I never believed that he would get the Oscar nomination, but fun to talk about, I guess. I remember people after nominations came out, people did treat it as like a huge snub, which in my view was not.
No.
So
Uh,
that came out the same day as did you see this one? I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry.
no, I was kind of out on Sandler by then a little, and I didn't find any of that run of movies really great. Honestly, this was like in
I have not seen that either.
I might have seen this eventually, like on a plane or in like a hotel on like an afternoon. You know what I mean? You just like have it if you're on a vacation and you're just kind of like sitting there getting ready to do something and it's on TV, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Again,
So
another
also like that day, another movie came out. Sunshine. Did you see that? Danny Boyle. Huge
not in the
ensemble
theaters.
cast. Like Michelle Yeoh, Cillian Murphy, Chris Evans, Rose Byrne. They're astronauts and they have to save the sun.
Great movie. I think they have to shoot a nuke into the sun, right, to
Yes,
restart it.
yeah.
Is that
I'm
the
just
idea?
like, this is an amazing concept, but it was a total bomb
Yes.
and it devastated a lot of the people involved
Yes.
because they expected better from it. So.
Yes. Now Cillian Murphy, a huge star, as we're talking here with Oppenheimer. What a big hit it is, Joyce. I'm assuming.
He could destroy the earth instead of saving the sun now.
Yes.
So
Here's two I wrote down. This one I saw in the theater because I was a big Wes head, and they did Darjeeling Limited.
I did not see that in theater.
I saw it in the theater, and they had done a thing, I think, with like, it felt like this was like an experimental time where they're putting things out, and there was like a prologue that they released, I think, on Apple that you could buy on iTunes at the time, with like Natalie Portman's character, who is only in like a one shot of the actual movie, but in the prologue that didn't exist with the
It's like
movie.
Avengers Endgame. So
Yes, exactly like Avengers Endgame. Anyway, Darjeeling Limited, I remember I went through my life for a long time being like, that's the worst Wes Anderson movie. And then a couple years ago, when I did the rewatching, when I rewatched all my Wes Anderson movies, I was like, this movie freaking rules. It's so much better than I remember. I absolutely loved it. Great Adrian Brody, one of Owen Wilson's best performances, and Jason Schwartzman rules. And having seen now more Wes Anderson movies, I'm going to say not his worst. I guess I'll just leave it at that. Because I'm not a big
I
fan.
haven't seen it in a while, but isn't it? They had a bunch of cameos on there, right? Wasn't like Bill was a cameo.
Bill's in the
right?
beginning. He plays like a guy who's running for a train, and the three boys catch it. And Angelica Houston's in it for a second too. Another movie that kind of gets no shine, and I don't even know if it really exists. And I never even saw it until it was on cable. The Farrelly Brothers remake of The Heartbreak Kid with Ben Stiller and Michelle Monaghan, who was a big thing at this time.
I remember it coming out. I've never seen it.
I've seen it and I love it, and it's really funny, and it has a great ending. And Stiller, it's like one of those classic like Along Came Polly Stiller performances. He's just as great as this kind of role, and no one will think about this movie ever again. And I don't even, like I said, I can't imagine it holds up comedy wise. I'm going to say probably doesn't hold up based on like current sensibilities, but it was very funny and great Ben Stiller.
Did you see 3:10 to Yuma?
No, I didn't. I was like kind of out on that. I don't know why. I saw it eventually.
What, Mangold?
I guess I was out on Mangold because I was never a big fan of Mangold. After like another director, I was like, Copland. I remember seeing in the theater and being so disappointed. But now I've seen it again recent, like in my life, and it's like great. So I think at the time I was still like in my Mangold's like kind of mid phase, and I was tired of Russell Crowe and Bale, sure. But like, it's good though. Now I think it's good.
I feel like this just got lost with like among No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood.
Yes.
It did get the SAG Ensemble nomination. I think it only got that because it was a September release as opposed to a very late December release for There Will Be Blood.
Yes, absolutely. How about this one? Michael Clayton.
I love Michael Clayton.
So possibly the best movie of the year. I think I could make a strong case.
One of my, it's like that and Born Ultimatum, like no joke.
Didn't even mention Born Ultimatum, which I think
Born Ultimatum I love. That's one of the few times in the theater where like when it's revealed that the whole movie takes place within supremacy, I was like, holy fuck. Like my mind was blown.
It's so good. It's like really good. This
Yeah.
is a real fun hit. Just absolutely loved it.
They should have just stopped the Bourne franchise right there, and then it goes 3 for 3 at the Oscars. Very well deserved. Perfect hat trick win there, but they should have not rebooted. I love Renner. You know, I love Renner. They should have not done the Bourne Legacy, and then they should have not done Jason Bourne.
No, I totally agree with you both of those. Here's how you know movies used to be good and now they're not as good. This Bourne Ultimatum, the third movie in a franchise blockbuster hit, written by Tony Gilroy, Scott C. Burns, and George Nolfi. Those are three amazing screenwriters who are like really good. Nolfi maybe is the least, like, frankly, but it's like he's got it. I think he definitely wrote Oceans, right? Or Oceans 12, which I love.
Yeah.
He did Justin Bureau, sure. Just great. And the other two are obviously two of the best screenwriters of all time. So yeah, that movies used to be good, Joyce. We used to be a country, and in that country they released good movies.
I was just I just love the Bourne franchise. Those three, not the other two that I don't talk. Like I pretend those don't exist. So
yeah, like a lot of things we've talked about this when they bring stuff back. And like
yeah, I don't need that. I just let things live.
Arrested Development. I love Arrested Development. One of my favorite shows ever. I don't even know or will not even recognize that it had 2 extra seasons on Netflix that I didn't like.
I didn't watch season 5. I only watched season 4 because I was like, I'll give it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Never watched season 5. It was fine for what it was, but it was just not like what I wanted or needed.
No.
So, but yeah,
Michael Clayton.
Michael Clayton was great.
Saw this in the theater by myself. Truly one of the best. I actually think I can make. I mean, it's tough because There Will Be Blood is obviously like an iconic movie that everyone thinks is like one of the great works of cinema in the last like 50 years. No Country for Old Men, similarly an amazing movie that definitely holds up and is like great. But man, Michael Clayton is so good.
And it's like, yeah, like I love No Country and There Will Be Blood, but I wouldn't say they're my favorites of the year. And like this, I think it's just so I don't even think it's the best movie of the year, but it's so just sturdy and entertaining.
It's incredibly watchable. That's a big thing. And
it's also another yet again another one of those mid-budget adult dramas we don't get anymore because we're gonna have the recession.
Yes.
Coming up.
Yes.
And then they all die.
Yes. It is like a last gasp, and it's like a perfect version of it's a perfect movie to be the last gasp of this kind of movie that would not exist. Couple of ones we mentioned Gone Baby Gone, which I really liked. Ben Affleck directing, kind of rebuilding his brand.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is his debut.
Yes. James Gray's We Own the Night. Never big into this, but I feel like there's a lot of gray heads out there who like this now.
I'm like, no, I don't.
Sidney Lumet, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead.
That just completely got lost in the shuffle.
Remarkable that it's like an aging director, like final movie kind of thing.
It's his last movie. And PSH, great.
Unbelievable.
And they're like, we'll nominate you for Charlie Wilson's War instead. Not for the Savages either.
No, he had a great year off his Oscar win. The movie American Gangster just fucking rules.
I thought that was fine.
Love it. Denzel is so good in this, and Russell Crowe is great. I love Big Ridley perform. I love like a Big Ridley movie. Cuba Gooding Jr. for like 5 minutes, just awesome. Idris Elba, before I knew who Idris Elba was. Ruby Dee, obviously an Oscar nominee for this. Good movie. Southland Tales, a historic, colossal flop that I love. Never saw it in the theater.
I did not love that. So
interviewed Richard Kelly like last year or a couple of years. Everything is last year in the pandemic to me because it just is like, I think it was like 3 years ago though, because they did like a 4K like reissue of it or a director's cut, and it was fun. This was like a very strange movie that feels in some ways like way ahead of its time, and I think if people went back and revisited it, they would actually find something to do. The great meme of this movie, I think, is the Justin Timberlake like lip syncing to All the Things That I've Done by the Killers.
Yeah, this was also delayed because it premiered at a film festival in 2006.
It premiered Cannes in 2006.
Yeah, so then it was held until 2007.
Yeah,
I remember it coming out, but
I didn't watch it in the theater, but I did see it at home.
You know what else was also a bomb? Line for Lambs, Andrew Garfield's film debut.
With Robert Redford.
Yeah, Meryl Streep.
And Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I didn't see that in the theater.
Neither did I. That
Did
was
you
when
see
Tom. What's that?
did you see Dan in real life?
No, skip
Mm.
that one. How about Margot at the Wedding, which for a long time was my least favorite Noah Baumbach movie, but was recently surpassed by the last Noah Baumbach movie.
I thought it was fine. It was okay. I enjoy Nicole.
I enjoy Nicole. This was like a fulcrum point for him because I think like clearly like as we've seen in his work, like his marriage to Jennifer Jason Leigh, not a great, not great.
No, you write what you know.
And so this was a pretty caustic and like if my memory serves because I haven't seen it in a long time because I just did not like it. Was pretty caustic and like mean spirited in a way that felt like just like not a cool hang. And then when he kind of Greenberg was like a little more light, and then obviously once he connects with Greta Gerwig, those movies have like a great blend of their two, I think, ethoses.
Yeah. I haven't seen that in a while, so I don't remember when I saw it. I don't think I saw it for a couple years either, but it was shot on Long Island.
Yes,
But,
it was.
yeah.
I got the movie.
Did you see Beowulf? That was like a big production.
Not into that. I was out on the Robert Zemeckis mocap stuff. Just not in.
Enchanted.
Great.
Great
Love
film.
this. Oh my
Amy
God.
Adams should have been nominated.
So Amy Adams should have been nominated. Amy Adams also, the most baller, just comes out and sings. She performs.
Happy Working Song. Yeah.
Happy Working Song with no bells, no frills. Later they'll do another nominated song. I forget what it's called with Kristen
Well,
Chenoweth.
they had three.
Right.
They had three. Yeah.
So the Kristen Chenoweth one, it's a whole like Broadway production basically for her. Amy is like, hold on.
She just has the mic. Yeah.
She's like, I'm in the audience. Let me just roll up here and just sing with all the most famous people in the world. And she crushes it. I was like, man, Amy Adams is the best.
That's why. So when it was announced that Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone would not perform at the Oscars for La La Land, like, and John Legend would do it instead, I was like, they don't have Amy Adams' balls.
No.
Like, she set the standard. So you guys level up.
Love it. The Savages you mentioned, I saw that in the theater. Tamara Jenkins, Laura Linney, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Good movie. Haven't seen it since.
Laura got a surprise nomination, knocked out Angie for A Mighty Heart. Did you see A Mighty Heart?
No.
I saw that. Fine.
Seemed fine.
Yeah.
Here's what I was really excited about and I loved at the time. Haven't really visited that much probably since this era. Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
I haven't seen that probably since it came out either, but I really liked it then. And it's kind of, it's also like one of those things also that you think it's unfilmable, but they did it.
Incredibly deserved a nomination for Julian Schnabel. Probably should have got more nominations. Had a great soundtrack, great performance from Matthew Almeric.
It definitely would have gone into Best Picture had there been more than 5.
Absolutely, I agree. Juno, which I loved, unabashedly loved at the time. Haven't seen in a long time.
I've only seen it once, but I enjoyed it.
Really fun. Great performances, really witty script. And it was a big thing. It was like a sensation. I remember seeing it probably in the theater, but after it had opened and it was packed. I must have seen it. I don't know. I might feel like I saw my friend John, who we didn't go to a lot of movies together, but I must have seen, I thought I saw it with him and maybe at like Clearview or like Union Square, I guess. I don't know. It was a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Atonement, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Good movie.
Yeah, that had a lot of Oscar buzz, I guess. I mean, it did get nominated, but I think people had higher expectations for it.
Yeah.
It won the Globe.
Another movie I would put in the same category, though I think much less successful than Atonement, is Charlie Wilson's War, like you mentioned.
Not great.
I do think Philip Seymour Hoffman's like hilarious in it.
Yeah.
But
the movie as a whole.
I think casting Tom Hanks is like a whiff. I don't think he's like right for the movie. And like even at the time was not right for the movie. Sorkin's script is fine. Mike Nichols, like late stage Nichols. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
This is also the era of Julia where she was like coming back after having kids.
Yeah.
Doing stuff, you know?
It is a funny time. Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't all land. So, because she also tried Broadway.
Hmm.
with Bradley Cooper and Paul Rudd, and that wasn't a huge success. So
Sweeney Todd,
I like Sweeney Todd. I haven't seen that in a while either, but
pretty
I enjoyed
solid,
it
but
back then.
sure. The movie The Bucket List, which was a meme.
Yeah. I can't say I've seen that recently.
And then the last movie that I have written down, There Will Be Blood. Just iconic.
Great film. You didn't write down Walk Hard. You're not a Walk Hard fan?
It's fine. I know people love Walk Hard, and it's hard to do a music biopic without thinking about Walk Hard. I was never, I think it's totally fine, but I was never like a true apostle
I mean, the
of Walk
music
Hard.
satire of 2007 is music and lyrics.
Yes.
Great film, great Hugh Grant performance, snubbed. Great music, should have been nominated for song instead of the Enchanted Spam. They changed the rules after that.
Enchanted Spam. It's so good.
They did, because it was the second year in a row, because the year before was they had triple Dreamgirls songs and now triple Enchanted. So then they changed it. So now no film can have more than 2 nominated.
A good tweak.
Yeah.
Anything
There
else
was
to write down?
I wrote this down only because it was mentioned on Abbott Elementary last season, and I literally have not thought of this movie since it came out. Freedom Writers.
Yeah, no.
It's a
Hilary
great joke.
Swank?
Yes, yeah. Great joke on Abbott Elementary though.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider. Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
Fine. As we know, Norbit, which people blame for Eddie Murphy's loss for Dreamgirls in 2007.
An Oscar nominee, and as Jon Stewart says, Norbit, too often the Academy ignores movies that aren't good.
Yeah.
Good joke.
So Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. I still cannot figure out if I've seen this movie or not. I think I have.
I did see it and I hated it. I didn't like the Pirates. Really took a nosedive.
It's
for
only
me
the
after
first one.
Yeah,
Like you only watched the first one.
Really
but,
tough.
But I can't remember if I've seen this one. I think I have though. Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer.
No.
They're still trying to do Fantastic Four.
Now maybe never. Who knows?
No, not for at least like 15 years again. Yeah. So Live Free or Die Hard. This was a paycheck gig for my guy Timothy Oliphant.
Very big dislike, especially because I think Die Hard 3 is like one of the great movies of our lives. Great movie. Should have ended the franchise. It's so good.
Eastern Promises. Vigo gets his nom.
Sure. I was never as into this one as I was the other one. History of Violence, excuse me.
Yeah, I feel like he should have gotten, I feel like this was a makeup nomination for that.
Absolutely.
So, Lars and the Real Girl for Ryan, who gets snubbed.
Craig Gillespie, who would later direct I, Tonya, which we love.
So this movie I have not seen, Rendition, but I just know it as the movie where Reese Witherspoon and Jake Gyllenhaal met and they started dating. So
never seen that either. Isn't that funny? Lines for Lambs and Rendition. Hard to tell the difference.
It's the same movie. So and then I don't know. I think that's it. I'm Not There, which we'll talk about.
There was a Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.
Right, but this was the 5th one, and as you know, I've only seen the first 4.
I Am Legend, Will Smith.
Oh yeah, this was a big one for him.
Good movie, actually. Pretty good. Big debate about the ending. They kind of like redid the whole ending.
The Brave one for Jodie Foster.
Yeah. National Treasure 2.
I did not see that one.
How about Alvin and the Chipmunks?
I did not see it in a theater, but I've seen it a lot on TV.
Any other ones?
There's B Movie.
Yes. Barry Seinfeld makes an appearance at the Oscars as the Bee.
As the Bee. Surf's Up, another. I had to review that too. I had to go all the way to Lincoln Square for the screening. I remember.
And this is for your school paper?
No, I already graduated by then. I was working at a tabloid at this time.
Oh, okay. I wasn't trying to. I wasn't sure if you had graduated by this point. It was not like a diss. I hope you didn't take it.
No, because I mean, I know because we skipped last year because we taped the 2000 ceremony last year, but that was the first year I was working because I had already started working. So this was at this point, well, in 2007, when this came out, I had to go because they gave me just like the trash movies no one wanted to see to review. So I went to see Surf's Up, Lincoln Square, but I did review some movies that I did not enjoy at my school paper. So, like Running for Scissors.
Ryan Murphy. That was the first time I ever heard of Ryan Murphy.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
I knew him from Popular because I watched
that was not on my radar at the time.
So.
I'm just scrolling here if we missed anything else. There's like this, like, so as you can tell, a lot of great movies this year. Even the misses, I'm like, or these movies that are not as like ingrained in the culture, I think are great. I just think this is a great year. If I don't know if it's better than 1999, but I think it's very close. And I think the top of the top for these movies from this year are better than 99.
I think that's really what is elevating the whole year in general.
Like,
because like the peak is very high.
Yeah. If you had a rank, I'm like, I don't even know what 99 would be the best movies now. I mean, we did that one already, but like,
I feel like 99 is just overall more consistent.
Yeah. There's a little more of like the 10 things I hate about you type movies that this year is lacking. You know what I mean? Like those mid, like even like the genre movies were great. And this year the genre movies are okay, probably, but like the best movies are the best movies.
Yeah.
So Joyce, so we go to the ceremony. 2008 Oscars. Opens with I wrote down a terrible CGI opening through movie history that looks no different than Ready Player One.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out like, was this what you were gonna do? Or like, well, no, I assumed like they were gonna do this had the strike still been happening, but I'm like, why did you keep this?
Hard to guess.
So
did you find anything out in the articles about this before the strike?
Well, so the thing with the strike started November 5th, 2007, yes. And it ended February 12th, 2008, and the Oscar ceremony was February 24th, 2008. And in December, a lot of award shows were asking the WGA for waivers so they could get writers, and it approved the SAG waiver. So that's why the SAG Awards had a ceremony on January 27th, because SAG has always been extremely supportive of the WGA. So they're like, we're gonna, watch out for our brethren. So they gave SAG a waiver. That's also why like I knew that like SAG would strike this year, because like SAG and WGA want the same things. Mm-hmm. Like they're always in it together. It's the DGA that are, like doormats. Because DJ struck a deal during the writer's strike in 2008 too, in January. So they gave SAG the waiver, and then I think it was then these dates. Yeah, so they gave the SAG the waiver on December 11th, 2007, and then on December 17th, 2007, WGA rejected waiver requests from the Globes and the Oscars. So the Globes had sought permission for writers to prep material for the Kudos cast. This is from Variety, obviously, with this lingo, on January 13th on NBC, so rejected outright. The Oscars at this point had only requested a waiver for the use of the show, so they rejected that. And they had not yet filed the request for writers, but they were definitely going to. And then it says, each year, AMPAS requests waivers from all the guilds to use clips from films on past Oscar casts. And AMPAS spokesman said the org has not yet requested any strike-related waivers for the show, which will air February 24th. I can't scroll. But a source says the WGA West Board has already decided to turn down any request for an Oscar script waiver if and when it arrives. So they were just like, you're not getting anything, so you have to figure out what the hell you want to do. And then after nominations, so the other side note, nominations were on January 22nd, 2008, which is the day Heath Ledger died. Mm-hmm. It was very, very sad. And I was working from home that day to cover the nominations. And I was like, oh, so like, the day's over, whatever. And then like 3:30 p.m., I got the TMZ news blast that he had died. And I feel like that just completely overshadowed like general public's like, yes. Their resources for like news coverage, like especially like the Oscar stuffs. But anyway, that morning after nominations, this is from Reuters. It says Hollywood writers strike clouds Oscars, blah blah blah. So now Hollywood is wringing its hands over whether the 11-week-old strike by screenwriters against the major studios could or should be enough to postpone the Academy Awards this year. Globe. So then quote from Sid Ganis, who was then the AMPAS president: "We're dealing with contingencies, but we're full steam ahead. The point is we're going to have a show and we're going to give these incredible artists what they're due. We're going to present Oscars on February 24th. And whether the usual start at a 3-hour plus live telecast will have to be scaled back remains to be seen. The WGA has threatened to picket the event, barring a settlement of the strike." And then, so like they were holding out hope because like I said before, the WGA had just said it would not picket the Grammy Awards.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they were gonna go back to meet with the studios like this week in January. So they were hopeful. And then after the strike ended, so this is February 12th, 2008, this is in the LA Times. So now they're scrambling to put on the show. So that's literally what Bruce Davis, the executive director of AMPAS, says. We're in scramble mode right now. And then they said they were planning 2 parallel broadcasts, one contingent on the strike continuing, and then so the former broadcast was to rely on an assembly of film clips and pre-recorded packages and assume no stars would be on hand to pass out or receive statuettes. The latter, the actual show, would be a traditional Oscar show with host Jon Stewart bantering at the start and some of the biggest names in show business hoisting their trophies on the Kodak Theater stage. Quote, "We have always prepared for 2 shows, and now we're going to go with the show we had always wanted to do," Kate said. But still, the show in general, a lot of montages in the end.
A lot of montages, and like the same generic banter. I mean, it's the same show. It doesn't feel like any different, but I did enjoy it because I thought Stewart was really good.
Yeah, and then I think they also kind of got lucky that it was the 80th anniversary of the show, so they could get away with doing these clip packages, these montages of like previous winners.
That was really cool, actually.
I do like those montages. So I think that really, because I think it's kind of weird if it were like the 79th ceremony for them to be doing that.
Yeah, it was great though to have those montages, like all the past winners of like the acting categories, a lot of them, and like the memorable speeches that everybody knows like by heart. Yeah, so we'll go through the categories, Joyce, and like we said, a lot of fun. I just love this year. So Best Picture, No Country for Old Men wins. No Country for Old Men, Joyce, a great fucking movie, just great. Maybe the best Coen Brothers movie.
Yes.
What else is on the list for you?
Fargo.
Miller's Crossing for me, and Fargo.
I like Barton Fink. Big Lebowski.
Yeah, I'm not a big Lebowski guy. It's fine.
I'm not really into like True Grit.
Watched it once, totally fine. But they made some great movies.
Raising Arizona.
Great movie. Mm-hmm. Blood Simple, great movie. Their older movies, I think, are great.
I mean, I think you could argue the entertainment factor of them, but I think like pound for pound as a film, No Country is their best one.
Just a fantastic movie. It's so great. I went down I didn't rewatch it before we did this, but I went down like a rabbit hole of watching it basically on clips from YouTube, and just like, God damn, this movie's so good. It's so good. So good.
It was also funny because so it swept, right? It was winning. It led the nominations with 8, tied with There Will Be Blood. We both got 8. And I remember at the time just knowing that it was going to win. It premiered at Cannes, and it was just raves out the wazoo. And then it was also like Javier Bardem is winning too. It was just like these are done. And then there was like not for like Best Picture, nothing came along the rest of the year that felt like it could dethrone it. And then like There Will Be Blood, try to Clint its way in. But I think ultimately, like both films are very dark and violent, but I think There Will Be Blood was like too dark, and it ends on too much of a downer with DDL killing Paul Dano. Whereas like No Country, it's still, sad at the end and kind of hopeless, but there is a more like bittersweetness to it. And you have a more quote unquote likable character than Daniel Plainview in Tommy Lee Jones's character.
And
Who's kind of like
Llewellyn.
holding you through
Yeah.
everything.
I mean,
kind
I
of
think
like
the two of
explaining
them,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think the two of them are great. I also feel like, yeah, There Will Be Blood always felt like, it's funny because normally There Will Be Blood or No Country would be like the film Twitter cool movie that we would call it now, but they're both that. But this, I just love No Country for Old Men. I think it is so good, and only has grown in my estimation since I saw it. I definitely was a There Will Be Blood stan at the time. I think I was probably disappointed that it didn't beat No Country for Old Men. But now that I've gotten older and I think about what I'd rather do with my time, no offense to There Will Be Blood, I'd much rather watch like No Country for Old Men or Michael Clayton, like I said, than There Will Be Blood. It's just
I
like
think
easier watch.
they're just kind of like more entertaining, I guess.
Yes,
and
I think
like
exactly
I think There
right.
Will Be Blood is entertaining too in a different way, but it's depressing.
Yes, or just like
It's more bleak.
it's more. It feels like an assignment. Like you're saying, like I think There Will Be Blood. I mean, No Country for Old Men and certainly Michael Clayton are something you could are just they're like genre movies that are elevated by the craft. There Will Be Blood is like homework, but great. But it's like reading a book, like as you know me.
Oil.
Yeah.
You didn't read Oil?
No. So No Country Wins. There Will Be Blood, obviously, like you said, had 8 nominations too. Michael Clayton had 7 nominations. The other Best Picture nominee here, and then Juno and Atonement. Both Atonement had 7 nominations, and Juno had 4.
Yeah. This lineup is fine. Like good films.
Love it.
And yeah, it was also, I mean, I don't know if this is just like hindsight, but I felt like it was kind of set, I guess. Like I said before, like Diving Bell and The Butterfly could have gotten in if it was bigger. It did get in at PGA.
So it definitely feels like that was the 6th movie, and maybe Juno knocked it out by being a big phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, Juno also did get into. I mean, if you're comparing PGA, then Atonement knocked it out because Atonement did not get in there. Atonement won the Globe. That's also a very Globesy movie for them to award. And BAFTA also went to Atonement, which like obviously makes sense, but they still gave director to the Coens.
Yes.
And I think like the big snub of the day was Into the Wild, because it felt like that had a lot of momentum.
Definitely.
Going in.
Do you think it would have gotten in if a 10?
I think it would have gotten in as a 10, but it didn't get in. It only got 2 nominations.
That's
overall.
why I'm not sure.
But I think like as a 10, it could have made it. Because like so like the rest of my 10,
Yeah,
I
what do you
had
got?
Bell,
Yeah.
American Gangster, Into the Wild.
I have Into the Wild, a 10.
I have Bourne Ultimatum.
I have Bourne Ultimatum too. It won 3 Oscars, and I feel like it could have gotten a lot more, and I think it would have gotten in too.
Yeah. I also did Ratatouille.
Same.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it could have gotten in
So
as a 10.
I have similar than I have Diving Bell, I think would have gotten in. I have Ratatouille, I have Bourne, I have Into the Wild, and I have Once, because I think that's the type of movie that now would get in as like a.
It would get in now, I think. I don't know about back then.
And then the other ones I wrote, I mean, I think we both agree Zodiac should have been in. I don't know what I would have knocked out Atonement actually for it if I was doing the 5.
Yeah, I would do it too. Like I personally would not nominate Atonement.
No, it's not
No
bad.
offense to the movie. It's totally fine movie.
Yeah. I think in other years that we've done, it would be one of the best movies nominated.
Yeah.
But
it could have won over Crash. So
certainly, I was just thinking, I was like, it would be the second, probably right behind Brokeback Mountain on that list of Best Picture nominees from the previous 2 ceremonies previous.
Yeah, but I think Into the Wild could have got, because like Sean Penn got into DGA.
I do think it would have gotten in probably 10. I thought maybe Sweeney Todd would get in.
I could see that. Yeah.
And personally, like I said, Zodiac I would have definitely put in, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Zodiac should have been like down the ballot.
And would you, so if you had to do it again, No Country winning Best Picture here, Joyce?
I'm fine with it. Like I think it's definitely between that and There Will Be Blood. I think There Will Be Blood was the runner-up. And I don't think you can make a mistake choosing one or the other. You can't even make a mistake choosing Michael Clayton, honestly.
No, and it's a great trio. Best director, no surprise, the Coen brothers. Joel and Ethan Coen win for No Country for Old Men. The other nominees, again, great list, I think. Paul Thomas Anderson for There Will Be Blood, Tony Gilroy for Michael Clayton, Jason Reitman for Juno, and Julian Schnabel for The Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
Yeah, no Joe Wright for Atonement, which again, not a shocker, but I have a quote here. Hold on. So this is like from EW. It's like, well, it's like a feature. Well, they call it the Unpredictable 2008 Oscars. That's a headline from Dave Karger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think it was that unpredictable.
You got to make it work, though. You got to keep the audience involved.
Like, you maybe call like supporting actress unpredictable.
Yeah.
But so Atonement producer Paul Webster, meanwhile, found himself representing the only Best Picture nominee that failed to earn any recognition for its director. Quote, more than anybody else, this is his movie, Webster said of Joe Wright. Quote, his stamp is all over it. It kind of makes a nonsense of the process in a way. Personally, I would happily trade my own nomination for a Best Director nomination for him.
Okay.
I mean,
I
I'm
like
never
Joe
excited for Joe Wright.
Yeah. Joe Wright, Sean Penn, and Paul Greengrass I wrote down as like 3 likely potential nominees here.
Yeah. I also, obviously, Fincher, who was not getting in, but
Fincher.
Yeah. And then I also did Tim Burton for Sweeney Todd.
Then if we're dream casting, I put down Andrew Dominic for Assassination of Jesse James.
Yeah, I have him too.
Sidney Lumet for Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, I think should have gotten more shine, obviously. Todd Haynes for I'm Not There. Ben for Gone Baby Gone. Ridley Scott for A Gangster. And John Carney for Once. I think, again, that probably wouldn't have happened even now. It feels like
none of those would have happened.
No, but they're all good.
Yeah, this was like pretty set, I feel like, or like my recollection of it. Yeah, like DJ was the Coens, PTA, Tony, Sean, and Julian.
Right.
So
Juno
yeah,
again,
so they didn't even do Joe Wright either. So.
Right. And Juno and Jason Reitman sneaking in with the populist hit that people really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Best actor, Joyce. Daniel Day-Lewis, There Will Be Blood.
Just his second Oscar.
Only second one.
You know what's cool though? He wins his third exactly 5 years to the day from this one, because that ceremony was February 24th, 2013.
Yes. Other nominees, George Clooney for Michael Clayton, Johnny Depp for Sweeney Todd. Felt like just a filler nom for Johnny Depp at that point.
Total filler nom.
Tommy Lee Jones for In the Valley of Ella. Like I said, my theory is this is a nomination because you were in No Country for Old Men and delightful and should have been a supporting actor nominee, but we didn't have room for you, so we'll put you in for this. And Viggo Mortensen, a makeup nom for Eastern Promises here for missing previously.
So basically, Tommy replaced Ryan Gosling.
Yes.
For Lars and a Real Girl. He was always vulnerable because it was such a small movie, but he hit all the precursors.
He did.
And Tommy Lee Jones actually hit SAG for No Country for Old Men.
Yes.
But it's like, it's funny because it's not like in the Valley of Ella is like a huge smash or anything, and he's not a coattail that you might see like Clint for $1 Million Baby, so it's just kind of like, yeah, it's like a coattail off of No Country for Old Men maybe, but then like that kind of logic of we're not going to nominate you for this, but we're going to do this. It's like, I feel like that only makes sense if all these voters, like all however many of them there were back then, like 7,000 probably, were in a room and they just decided collectively they were going to do that. Like you really needed everyone, or not all, well, the acting branch at least. So like 1,000 people, whatever. Like they, like enough people decided that because he could have gotten double nomination. So it's like they decided to nominate for this and not for No Country.
I mean, I kind of think, yes, I don't know. I supporting actor felt a little more crowded to me, and maybe that helped him get in here. I have to say, so the other people I wrote down are like that had nominations throughout the season, at least, were like James McAvoy for Atonement and Emil Hirsch for Into the Wild. So like I feel like those 3 guys, Gosling, McAvoy, and Hirsch, were all very close to getting nominated, probably.
Yeah, Emil got into SAG, and yeah, SAG loved Into the Wild because it
Yes.
got 4 nominations.
But if I
So
was doing it, I mean, I think Daniel Day-Lewis obviously is incredible, and George Clooney, I gotta say, I could make the case that he should have won for this. I think it's like his signature
this
performance,
is his best performance.
and he had won the prior or 2 Oscars previously for Syriana. And so, like, it was no need to give him an Oscar. And Daniel Day-Lewis obviously is like the greatest actor of his like generation, and will win a 3rd Oscar in 5 years, like you said. And I don't think anybody's going to sit here and be like, man, Daniel Day-Lewis, No Country, and There Will Be Blood, not great. But I do think there will never be a better George Clooney performance. And I think in any other year, he probably would have won.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because
He's
they
so good.
obviously clearly love Michael Clayton too. And I'm
Yes.
so glad Tilda won.
Yes.
So it could be called an Oscar-winning film. And yeah, I do think it's his best performance. And he doesn't really act that much anymore. I mean, like Ticket to Paradise, obviously amazing. But he really turned to this in 2008, he had Leatherheads, remember?
Not a great.
Really, he's really focused on directing since then. And yeah, I think, yeah, like no one was beating DDL. And it's because now for George in 2023, it might feel like he needs, you know, like, or like he should have a 2nd Oscar or like one in lead. But at that time, like DDL only had 1 only. And it was like, oh, this is such an iconic all-timer performance. This is the time to give him the 2nd one. Like we skipped over him from Gangs of New York, a movie we did not care about. And we do like There Will Be Blood, but not enough to give it Best Picture. And this is gonna be the representative win for it. Does win cinematography too, but like this is like the main thing.
So I had 3 other people that I would have nominated here for me. Josh Brolin for No Country for Old Men, I think, is like all-time underrated performance, and he's definitely a lead, and he could have gotten nominated. It's great. I don't know if the movie works as well without him in it, even though it's a 3-hander, basically.
Yeah, like I mean, like I wouldn't run 3 of them in supporting. So,
no. So I think he
and
could
then
have gotten
he dies. So
I think Matthew Almeric should have gotten in for Diving Bell and Butterfly.
Yeah.
And I have Casey Affleck for Gone Baby Gone.
Same. Like the bar scene, that whole sequence is so great. He should have been a double nominee.
He definitely should
I
have
also
gotten
I have Hugh Grant for music and lyrics.
Sure. Love it. I'm here for that. I think the other people I wrote down were like never going to get in, but like Denzel or Russell Crowe, Philip Seymour Hoffman for Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, but none of these are like real.
I mean, they could have done PSH for The Savages,
yes,
but they didn't because they did Laura. So, but yeah, this was not a race at all. It was just DDL all the way. And yeah, I don't know.
Best actress then. Let's go there, Joyce. Marion Cotillard, Best Actress winner for La Vie en Rose.
Great win, great reaction from Cate Blanchett. I've watched that a million times.
Man, no one is more psyched than Cate Blanchett. Not even Marion Cotillard. She's fucking hyped, Kate.
But Marion Cotillard, you know, she loves life. So
great.
It's the City of Angels.
Great. Cate Blanchett, obviously nominee for Elizabeth the Golden Age. Julie Christie for Away From Her. Laura Linney for Savages, and Elliot Page for Juno. Good list.
Yeah. So Julie was the favorite.
Did not look pleased that she lost.
She was definitely ready to pull out her speech. She was, yeah, I always feel bad watching it.
Reminded me of like Lauren Bacall for Mirror Has Two Faces.
Julie handled it better.
Slightly better.
She was like, I feel like she definitely, this is just me projecting. I feel like she probably had like a speech in her purse or something and she was ready to pull it out. And then Forrest Whitaker said Marion Cotillard, and then she like starts clapping. But they split the precursors, even though she was the favorite, because they both won the Globes, because again, back then, La Vie en Rose had to compete in musical or comedy. So they both won. And then Julie won Critics' Choice and SAG, and Marion won BAFTA. So, but I think it's just like the baitiness of the performance.
As we've seen, history will be kind to, if you're playing a real person.
Yes.
You're probably going to win an Oscar.
Yeah, go play Edith Piaf.
So other people,
but she was great in it. I know that performance. Some people don't like that performance, but I enjoyed it, and I have no problems with her win.
I mean, if I was ranking them, I would put like Elliot Page first, frankly, for Juno. But I don't know if these other. I'm like,
that was a fun performance, but
none of these others are like performances that I like. Julie Christie, yes, like okay, but like none of these are like. I'm just like fine on all out of these. Even like Kate Blanchett and Elizabeth, I'm just like okay, good performance.
Kate, that was like a total filler. Like that movie was like not great, Bob.
No,
it was just like okay, here you go. She got the double noms.
So like you mentioned, Angelina Jolie for Mighty Heart was definitely left out of this, probably.
Yeah, she was the Ryan Gosling of this category.
I wrote down Keira Knightley for Atonement.
Yeah, but I felt like she and James were just not happening once it was clear that Atonement wasn't like a top 2 player.
And then we mentioned this earlier. I think the biggest robbery is no Amy Adams for Enchanted. Truly, she is so good at it and should have got nominated. They don't take comedy seriously. They definitely don't take kids movies seriously and musicals that seriously.
Like a kids movie. It's just.
I mean,
it's
right.
Like it's a family film, but
family film, sure.
Yeah. I also wrote down Nikki Blonsky, who was great in Hairspray.
Another great musical performance. Yes.
Yes. And I also did Helen Bonham Carter.
Me too.
But yeah, like she wasn't like really in the running, but still. And Carrie Russell for Waitress.
Sure.
So I have a quote here from Laura Linney.
Yes.
About her surprise nomination. So it's from the same EW article. After being stiffed by the SAG Awards, the Globes, the Critics' Choice Awards, and even the Spirit Awards, Best Actress nominee Laura Linney had to laugh as well. Quote, "Oh, I completely gave up," reported the elated Savage star from Telluride, Colorado, where she was on vacation with her fiance, Mark Sharer. "I didn't think it was possible. I really didn't. My agent, Tony Howard, kept saying, it's going to happen. It's going to happen." And I was like, no, it's not.
Joke's on her.
So, and then there's a quote here from surprise nominee Tommy Lee Jones as well. He claims he didn't even know the nominations were being announced. And we believe him. That's the Dave Carter aside. And I believe it too. Tommy Lee Jones does not give a fuck.
No.
So he said, "My wife woke me up this morning and told me about it." And said Jones, who made the list for the $6.8 million grossing in the Valley of Ella. Quote, "It could be that more DVD screeners were sent out than tickets were sold at the box office." Probably true.
Yes. Best Supporting Actor. Not a lot of thought into this one, but I have notes on the list. Javier Bardem wins for No Country for Old Men, one of the all-time villain performances, up there with Hannibal Lecter. Clearly a no doubt winner. Like, can't even argue with it. He's so good. This is when I went down the YouTube rabbit hole. I was rewatching his scenes with Woody Harrelson and Kelly MacDonald, who I think was absolutely fucking robbed of a nomination. We'll get to that, I guess, later. But man, Javier Bardem is so crazy good in this movie. You can't even oversay how good he is. I think he's like, it is like one of those performances that was like a slam dunk, gonna win for months, and then is as good as advertised, basically.
Yeah, like it was done after the movie premiered at Cannes.
Yeah, this is a crazy year for Oscars because I think the 2 male wins are 2 of the greatest male acting performances of the last 50 years.
But not the ladies.
They're fine. I don't think if you're making a list of like great performers of all time, you're gonna have Tilda Swinton or Marion Cotillard like near the top 5. But I think both of these are in the top 5.
Yeah, it was, I guess it's like boring from that perspective because like neither of the male races were a race. It was just seeing who else. Like the fun was trying to figure out the lineup in phase 1. And then after that, it was like, it's over.
So here's the lineup. And again, I have notes, but Casey Affleck gets in for Assassination of Jesse James. Philip Seymour Hoffman for Charlie Wilson's War. No. Hal Holbrook for Into the Wild. A truly heart-rending performance.
Oh my God. And they picked the perfect clip for him too, when he asks if he can adopt Emil. Like that gets me.
Me too. And it's like, he should get nominated just for literally that one scene. And he probably did. And Tom Wilkinson for Michael Clayton, an all-time, I think, performance. He's great as well. Like I said, I think Tommy Lee Jones should have been in here. I would have kicked Philip Seymour Hoffman to the curb for Tommy Lee.
Yeah, like they could have made him and Casey double nominees, like I said. Like Casey is a lead in Jesse James. They just brought it in there because it's like, oh, we have Brad Pitt here. But yeah, yeah, like Tommy Lee Jones got into SAG for supporting actor, but they just got rid of him. Oscars.
It's kind of hard to believe. I can only assume it's because maybe like I could see him splitting votes with like Woody, honestly, because Woody Harrelson is also great in it, and like maybe they just I don't know, but I just think I'm like, and maybe Josh Brolin got supporting actor votes too. Who knows? Like we said, it's like a tough. They're all like in it, and they can't all run supporting. But I wouldn't be surprised even if Brolin was positioned as the lead that people did put him in supporting, maybe. So I think that's probably why both of them missed. Who knows? But he should have gotten in.
And I do think like Philip Seymour Hoffman getting in is kind of like you said, like the afterglow of his win for Capote, even though that was 2 years prior. But it's still like this is like a great era for him.
Yeah.
Too, and then he started racking up nominations. He'll get in for Doubt the following year too, and it remind, or I guess Sam Rockwell's nomination for Vice reminds me of this because it's just like the afterglow nomination after you win for something, and it's like a long, like long working character actor who finally like gets his day, and then like you just start nominating them for stuff.
The other person I wrote down, and I understand probably why he didn't get in, but I think if we were doing our weekly slugfest or whatever many years ago, how many years is this? 15 years ago now?
It's 16.
16. Paul Dano, we would have said like easy coattail nominee with Daniel Day-Lewis. Nina Haas to his Cate Blanchett. Nina Haas didn't get in, and neither did Paul Dano. And I think Paul Dano was more of a potential nominee than Nina Haas was for Tar.
Paul got into BAFTA. Paul just cannot get nominated for things, basically. He always falls short somehow. He gets nominated at like all these other checkpoints during the season, but he can't make it into the Oscars. It just happened to him again.
It's not even my favorite performance of his, or I think like I said, I'm gonna list off after this like multiple people I think should have gotten in other movies, but I just think it makes like Daniel Day-Lewis not doing this alone, and like Paul is such an easy nominee. Like his biggest scenes are all with Daniel Day-Lewis, and like the Daniel Day-Lewis performance doesn't work probably without Paul to push off of. In fact, I think isn't the lore that like there was another actor in that part that got like booted off the movie because he couldn't keep up, basically? Yeah. Isn't that like what it was? Like the legend of this performance? So I'm just like, I don't know. I think he should have got nominated. I don't know who you knock out if you're already knocking out Phillips for Seymour Hoffman for Tommy Lee Jones. I guess Casey Affleck for Assassinating Jesse James, even though like
that was a great performance, though. I wouldn't knock out performance. I guess you could do Tom. I don't know.
I would guess Holbrook but it's
nice I mean, I guess like Hal is probably the weakest because they didn't care for Into the Wild. Like they're all great performances here. I mean, Phil is also a good performance, but like unnecessary nomination.
Yeah. Other people we wrote down. We talked about Downey, obviously.
Just he should have been the one to get back-to-back nominations with this and Tropic Thunder.
Love him in this, so good. Ruffalo, I also wrote down great performance. I wrote down Christopher Mintz-Plasse for Superbad, which I absolutely am here for. He's so funny.
Yes.
Michael Cera and J.K. Simmons for Juno.
I really like J.K. in Juno.
And then John Travolta.
I did John Travolta. I have Peter O'Toole for Ratatouille. It's a voice performance, but I mean that monologue at the end.
Good monologue.
I also did James Marsden for Enchanted. Just great doofus. Love him as a doofus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, RDJ would be my top one here. I guess it's hard because I do like a lot of these performances in here, and like my lineup, I would revamp it almost wholesale.
Yeah. I would keep Wilkinson and Javier Bardem for sure, obviously. Best Supporting Actress was a twist and an upset, I guess. Or was it an upset? A little bit.
Best Supporting Actress?
Yeah.
It was a split race. This was one of the few exciting races we've had in acting since it moved up. The ceremony moved up to February a month because they split everything in the precursors.
Now, in hindsight, it seems very obvious that Tilda would win because Michael Clayton is the most popular movie of these 5 movies. and had
I
the
just
most
want to say before we
nominations.
get into it, where I was the tabloid at which I was working at, I was doing, obviously I was covering the Oscars, so I was
Yes.
doing my predictions. So I predicted that Tilda Swinton was going to win. And my editor at the time was like, what the fuck? She's not going to win. Why would you predict that? Isn't it going to be Kate Blanchett? I was like, no, it's going to be Tilda Swinton. So
You were right.
I was right. Yeah.
Tilda wins for Michael Caine. The other nominees were Kate Blanchett for I'm Not There, Ruby Dee for American Gangster, Saoirse Ronan for Atonement, and Amy Ryan for Gone Baby Gone. So Michael Caine, the only Best Picture nominee, or I'm sorry, Atonement is also Best Picture nominee, but not as popular as Michael Caine, seemingly, and missed in certain nominations.
So
Ruby
the run-up
Dee,
was Amy Ryan won Critics' Choice.
great performance.
Yeah. Also, again, this was back then when Critics' Choice could still do their own thing, make up their own minds, you know, instead of just rubber stamping a front runner. I guess you could argue that this race did not have a front runner, and maybe they were trying to make Amy Ryan the front runner. And then the Globe obviously went to Kate, the untelevised Globes. Ruby Dee won SAG. Not surprising, they love veterans, you know. And then BAFTA went to Tilda. So that was out, that like her winning that, and Michael Clayton being a moderate fave among the Academy, I was like, she's gonna win. Like, there's no need to give Kate a second Oscar this soon for a movie that they did not love that much, and she could also split her own votes and lead. I didn't think like many people would vote for Elizabeth anyway, but still, like, that's the possibility. Amy, great performance, but I just didn't think it was gonna happen. Like, that movie Gone Baby Gone, which I also love, didn't do that well either. Same thing with American Gangster. That would just been a career win for Ruby Dee, but I didn't really care about that movie. And Saoirse, again, yeah, Atonement was not the top tier contender that people had expected. And I think, you know, she was also young. I don't think it matters that she was young, but I think it's easier for them to like look another way if they don't really love that movie.
I also think you're not rooting for her character.
No.
So I think that
I made it up.
I think that hurts. I don't think people are watching that movie like, I love that character. She was great. I can't wait to reward the actress. I think you're gonna be like, fuck her. I don't like this.
She ruined lives.
So I really, honestly, I do think that is why she was not even close to going to win. Maybe that's weird because like we're saying they gave Javier Bardem an award and he's a mass murderer.
She's a woman. She's a little girl
So
who grows up into Vanessa Redgrave.
Right. Ruby Dee, we've seen over and over again as we've done these. They are not sentimental. They might think they're sentimental, but they do not give a shit about these old people. And that was one here. SAG does. That's why Julie Christie and Ruby Dee both won. Here it's Marion Cotillard and Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton's speech is fabulous. Just
great speech. I loved it so much because I mean, I totally believe that she was shocked to win.
She was so shocked, and she spent literally like half her speech negging Clooney for Batman and Robin, and he's in the front row and has to sit there and eat shit.
Yes.
So good.
And then she's gonna give her Oscar to her agent because the Oscar looks like her agent down to the buttocks. So
it's a fabulous win. She's so great in the movie, and they obviously love the movie. And like you said, I think being able to say it's an Oscar-winning movie is like cool because it deserves to be an Oscar-winning movie, even if it only won the one.
I think this was like the easiest category for it to win. It was so open. It was a very exciting race, I remember at the time, because they just kept splitting the precursors. But once Tilda won BAFTA, I was like, I'm just gonna go with her. Like, it was a hit movie, they like it, and yeah.
And she won. And that's how Joyce became the great Oscar predictor that she is.
Because, you know, you can't really go wrong with Tilda Swinton.
No.
Although she's been snubbed since then, so maybe you can.
I wrote down, I mentioned before, Kelly Macdonald to me is like an egregious snub. And
I got in a BAFTA.
I actually think if she was in here, she could have won.
I don't know if she could have won because she was having so much trouble, even as the only woman in the cast, in the main cast, really getting traction. Like, that could have been an easy coattail nomination.
Absolutely. And she's amazing in it. And it's like so heartbreaking. And she's so good. And her last scene with Javier is definitely is like maybe his best scene in the whole movie. And like her just like with him beat for beat. It's so amazing. I just think I'm like, to this day I don't understand how she wasn't nominated, especially in a list of nominees.
She definitely feels like one of those like day of Oscars surprises, but she just never happened.
Yes.
So
Other people I wrote down were maybe more serious, I guess, as contenders. Catherine Keener for Into the Wild.
She got it at SAG.
Julia Roberts for Charlie Wilson's War.
I mean, she had the Globe nomination, but it's the Globes.
And then a Samantha Morton from Control, who got in a BAFTA, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, all I had was Kelly MacDonald, honestly.
If we're talking personal faves, Jennifer Garner for Juno, I would put up there. I thought she was wonderful.
That's a really good performance from her.
And Leslie Mann for Knocked Up. Just a great Leslie Mann comedy performance.
Would you have done Vanessa Redgrave at all? She's only at like the very end.
No. I wrote her down towards the bottom of my list, but no.
I remember people trying to suggest that she could happen, more so before the movie opened, but it's like she's in this movie, you know.
Always a tough thing at this stage when you're like an old person who people like are in the movie, they must get Oscar.
Like an old Oscar winner, yeah.
Obviously they're going to get nominated again. We probably have that now with some of these upcoming movies that we're thinking about. I don't even know off the top of my head. I'm like trying to think who I even have in, but who would qualify as like a Vanessa.
Where do you have De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon?
I have him in. I think I have him in first, but this is July 17th. After I see Oppenheimer, I feel like I'll put Downey in first. But De Niro, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure we've seen that movie, Joyce. I don't like.
And the reviews are out. They've been out since Cannes.
De Niro it is a prime De Niro performance. Like one of his best.
Hilarious in it.
So funny, and it's definitely one of his best performances. I would say in the last like 25 years. I mean, like it's a long time since he's been that good.
Definitely. I have no. Like, I don't think like he was bad in The Irishman by any means, but it's way better than his Irishman performance.
Irishman, it's kind of a tough performance because he's like
inert,
interesting.
Yeah.
And this, he's just a fucking hoot. He is so funny.
He is like, I wouldn't deign to say he is Anton Chigurh, but like that's like he's the villain of the film.
It's an all-time villain performance, so charismatic and like just a corrupted worldview that is so realistic and like kind of scary because of how he's so right in so many ways, even though he's so morally reprehensible. He's so right about human nature, I would say, sadly.
Yeah. And then some great line readings.
Incredible. We'll have a lot of fun talking about that, I think, this year. Original screen, we'll do the screenplay winners, Joyce. Adapted goes to No Country for Old Men. No surprise. The other nominees were Atonement, Away from Her, Sarah Polley, Diving Bell and the Butterfly, Ron Hardwood from The Pianist fame.
Yeah, back with Second Nom.
And There Will Be Blood for PTA. I'm fine with No Country winning, obviously. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it sucks that PTA still hasn't won an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Sarah Polley got hers this year. So Christopher Hampton also got his for The Father.
Yes.
So
we're still waiting
Ron Harwood, R.I.P. He died a couple years ago, but already a winner. So
PTA got to get hustle. Once the strike ends in 2025, he can make his new movie. It's gonna be great.
Or he'll just be like 0 for 16.
Maybe that's it. Well, if movies are over, I mean, the whole industry might be over by then. So who knows?
So obviously, I wrote down Zodiac.
Same. Future
I wrote
Spider-Man
Zodiac,
writer?
The Bourne Ultimatum.
Good. Into the Wild felt like a realistic one.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, Into the Wild got in at WGA.
Mm-hmm. And then
I mean, like Sean Penn missed out on a lot of nominations. You know?
They really did not like the movie. I don't know if the movie's very good, honestly.
I think like I thought it was like okay at the time. It definitely, I mean, if I had really liked it, I would have seen it again since then.
Right. It definitely doesn't, like, I agree. I
don't know. It's like you know, I mean, it's a true story and it's sad, so it's emotional, and Hal has one of the most emotional scenes, as we've said. So I don't know why, like, it has like all the ingredients that you would think would appeal to the Academy. You know, it's not really like difficult to understand or anything, like, you know, so I don't know, they just rejected it.
Original screenplay goes to Diablo Cody for Juno. A great win. She's so psyched. I found her speech like wonderful.
Again, this is like the consolation prize. So
the other nominees are Lars and the Real Girl, a surprise entry, I would say, probably. I think it was a WGA nomination.
But it makes sense. It's like a classic writing nomination.
Michael Clayton, no kidding, great movie. Ratatouille and The Savages. Those are the 5 nominees.
Love the Ratatouille nomination. At WGA Juno one, of course, they did Knocked Up.
So I would have done Superbad. I think I think it should have gotten nominated.
Superbad is better than Knocked Up.
Superbad's better than Knocked Up. It's one of the funniest movies, I'd say, pound for pound, I've ever seen. I still watch it and laugh my ass off. I think their interplay is so funny. Just incredible. And the fact is that the thing they do great is make it relatively timeless. It feels like the movie could have come out in like 1985, 2007, 2022. Like Booksmart is basically Superbad. You know what I mean? Like all these, like it is just a perfect like genre movie of that genre. I love it so much. And the script rules and it's so funny.
I also wrote down Waitress for Adrian Shelley.
Yes. I wrote down I'm Not There for Todd Haynes.
Yeah. They just didn't care about it. So
they don't love Todd Haynes always.
No, not at all. No.
So we'll see how they May December coming soon to a Netflix.
But I feel like that's more that might be more broad appealing.
It seems that way. Netflix is certainly high on it. I wrote down Before the Devil Knows You're Dead.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I feel like this one you just kind of go off a cliff in terms of actual probability of making it in.
We'll do music like we like to do. An iconic win.
Like I have notes on.
Okay, I think it's a great win. I love
it is a great win, but the nominees.
The Falling Slowly from Once wins. Glenn Hansard and Markita Irglova win. That's a great movie. I love the song. It was a big thing. It was like a cult, like kind of underground hit that built. And obviously they win, and then he gives his speech and she doesn't get to give hers. And then John brings her back out later to give her speech.
It's a great moment.
It's a great Oscars moment, and her speech is wonderful. I like all of this is great. And then the problem is the other nominees. No offense to all of these, because I love Happy Working Song, Raise It Up from August Rush, which is described, Joyce, at the Oscars. Tell me if this sounds familiar. When Kerry Russell comes out for August Rush, a little movie with a big heart. Where have we heard that recently?
Does not sound familiar.
And then So Close from Enchanted, and That's How You Know from Enchanted. So what are your notes here?
So I have no issues with the win. Great win. It's like they really did a good job in the 2000s with a lot of the song wins. And this is the correct choice of this lineup. And I would still vote for it even in my personal lineup.
So what is your lineup?
I would replace 2 of the Enchanted songs with Pop Goes My Heart from Music and Lyrics, written by Andrew Wyatt, now an Oscar winner for Shallow.
Yes.
And also Way Back Into Love, also from Music and Lyrics, by Adam Schlesinger, R.I.P. Former nominee, but should have been a winner for That Thing You Do.
Yes. No, it's great. 2 great songs, somehow not even represented. I wrote down Guaranteed from Into the Wild by Eddie Vedder.
They were just like, nope.
I fucking did not like Into the Wild at all. Couldn't even get Eddie Vedder over there to get a song nomination. Yeah, a lot of notes here for this. The right movie won and the right song won, but man, you're right. They used to actually pay attention to this category, and now I feel like they don't give a shit anymore.
No.
That sucks.
Now it's just like we're fine giving like credit songs with like they started giving like no offense to the Bond songs, but like come on.
Feels like
it feels like they song, but like never heard of it.
It feels like they got crazy after Skyfall, and then just were like, which is a great song.
Yeah, that obviously no issues with that one.
Like kind of lost the thread.
What are the writings on the wall? Sure.
And then score, I have notes too, but Atonement wins for Dario Marianelli. 3:10 to Yuma as a nominee. Kite Runner, Michael Clayton, and Ratatouille.
Yeah. So as I said 2 weeks ago, I have no issues with the Brokeback Mountain score win, but I wish like Dario would have won for Pride and Prejudice. Love that score. But Atonement, also a great score. I would have also done Jesse James, Nick Cave, and Warren Ellis, and Johnny Greenwood for There Will Be Blood.
So I mean, the Johnny Greenwood one, that's like an all-time.
This is when he's just like starting, like he's venturing into scoring.
It feels like they just got blindsided with it, but I mean that is like one of the most memorable all-time scores, I would say. That it's not here is just beyond, but I mean they did everything else right at this Oscars. Not really that, I would say.
No, I feel like it was not too late. Like, it got 8 nominations. I'm just like, I don't think the music branch was completely late to it. I don't know. It's like,
I also thought Matteo Messina for Juno, I think, is a memorable score, but the music is probably like secondary to the needle drop, so I'm like, I could see it missing.
yeah. But yeah, I don't have a problem with the win. The lineup could be better.
I mean, not having Johnny Greenwood there is like a crime, but
yeah,
that's like the one. It's hard. Like I said, there's not a lot to complain about with this year.
No. Well, there was the controversy of this year was in international film, back then known as foreign language film, because there were 2 big snubs. One was Persepolis from France, which did get into animated, but the biggest one was from Romania, 4 months, 3 days, and 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days, right? That won a bunch of stuff. It won the Palme d'Or. So it seemed like it was a shoe-in. For the Oscar in foreign language film, was left off the shortlist, and there was like a huge to-do. I found this article. Hold on. In LA Weekly, it's like an op-ed basically, but oh my god, this font is so small. So it says, so the date of the shortlist reveal was just the week before the nominations on January 15th. So the lead is Tuesday, January 15th, 2008, a date that shall live in Academy Awards infamy. So it's like ranting about the snub. So there was the shortlist had 9 films, but not 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. And blah, blah, blah. So then the end of this graph, the lead graph, is its failure to advance to this penultimate round of the nominating process is as embarrassing a blunder as any in the Academy's history. You can put it right up there with the Best Picture win by Crash. So, and then there's like a quote here. Oh my gosh, this is so, where is it? So the Mark Johnson, who was the head of the foreign language nominating committee, said, "I've had better days." So, and he said he was, quote, stunned by the omission of, quote, a couple of films from the roster. And then he said, quote, so the previous year they had changed the voting system to do for this. So he had said, "I thought we had made big strides last year, but apparently not big enough." And then he says, oh, like the reporter suggested like they might have to change the process. And it said Johnson was unambiguous. "That's what has to be done, because in my mind, it can't continue like this. I don't believe these choices reflect the Academy at large." But now they've opened up the foreign or international film voting to the entire Academy for the shortlists.
I saw this at the IFC Center. I actually saw this movie in the theater. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's about abortion. It's a great, well, I don't know if I would recommend it as a two-hander, but Happening from a couple years ago covers the same topics. Yeah, both great films.
And that's it, Joyce. This is the 2008 Oscars. And this is my favorite one we've done, I gotta say. I think it's really great. I just love the movies. I love the show. I'm here for this.
Yeah, it's I remember at the time I enjoyed the ceremony. It didn't get like great reviews. Like there were a lot of complaints about all the montages.
A lot of montages.
Yeah. I mean, I remember thinking at the time like there was a lot, but they could justify it with the 80th anniversary. They did more montages for the 80th anniversary than they did for the 90th anniversary.
Yes. So now we're back next week with the 81st Oscars and Slumdog Millionaire. And
Kate finally wins. It's our last year of 5 Best Picture nominees.
Because The Dark Knight was snubbed.
And Hugh Jackman sings about it. Great host.
I'm
They should
really
bring it
excited to watch this one. I have not thought of
I
this.
love that. I've seen that ceremony so many times because I I taped that on VHS
Wow.
back then.
I gotta
So.
say, just scanning the list of winners and nominees, not a top year for film after the 2007 in film, I would say.
They could have also made some better choices.
Maybe. I guess we'll talk about that. So tune in next week and we'll go down.
They did nominate Fincher this time.
Yes. Not not my fave. Totally fine.
I've
We'll
not
talk
seen
about
that.
it. Yeah, well, I got a funny story, but the last time I saw that, actually. We'll talk about this next week. Joyce, talk to you then. Bye.